Welcome to Design Domination, where you'll learn to become a better, more business-savvy designer so you can dominate your competition. Hi, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Colleen Grotzer, and in this episode of Design Domination, I'm answering the question, what do I do when a client says they can't afford to work with me? Stick around to find out how to respond to clients who say they can't afford you, it's over their budget, or you're too expensive, and find out why this even happens in the first place. I remember all too well how it would feel when a client would say these things, and I figured my price wasn't right. I must not have said the right things to them. It must be me, not them. Why was I giving them all this power? Why would I assume it was me? I know a lot of designers feel this way and take it personally. It can feel like defeat, but the goal is not to win every client or every project. Some are just not the right fit, and that's totally okay. Don't take it personally. And clients often say things like this as an excuse for something else, which is the real reason preventing them from working with you. And you can't tell them what they can or cannot afford. So if they want to shut down the conversation, that's one way that they can try to do that. Now, before I get into how to respond to these objections, I think it's important to cover a few reasons why clients question your price, so you can lessen the chances of it happening again in the future. One of them is perceived value. Value is in the eye of the beholder. You have to make clients see the value, but you don't do that by convincing them. This reminds me of some crazy expensive pen that someone showed me that was on sale online. It was like over $1,000 or something, and it had some particular brand name on it. And I just thought, who would pay that much for a pen? I mean, who cares? I also, though, don't go after $1,200 iPhones or whatever they cost nowadays. I'm just fine with a pay-as-you-go phone. I don't need it to do anything more than what it does. I don't care about any of that stuff. A pen is a pen, a phone is a phone. I would never be their customers. I just don't see the value in these particular products. Now, people spend money on what they want to spend it on and what they perceive to be higher value than what they're paying for that product or service. And that higher value could mean getting more sales, or it could be something like prestige or looking cool or showing off. So when you're talking to clients, are you talking to them about design work? Or are you asking them questions about the results they're looking to get and demonstrating that you understand their needs and their industry? Some clients are only looking for an order taker, someone to throw together some text and images because they can't do it themselves. And they don't value the work that much. So it doesn't matter like you telling them how much the work is worth. And if you focus on deliverables, what you're going to be providing them, they will just price shop. If you want to charge more and stand out from other designers, you have to show how you are different from every other designer they're talking to, that you have experience in their industry, and that you understand their needs. Or maybe you excel at a certain design style or type of design, such as logo design or publication layout. The right clients are looking for someone with your skills who also has experience helping clients like them and also who can help them achieve certain results. Another one is lack of trust. Now, like I said earlier, there are often other reasons that they might have, and they use money as the excuse. Some may not trust you. If you're trying to convince them to work with you, it comes across as pushy. It appears one-sided, that you're just looking out for yourself. And this is why designers hate selling, because that's how it feels to you and that's how it feels to them. And if you're in desperate need of work, that will show. You've got to exude confidence, and confidence builds trust. Lack of trust could also mean they don't feel that you're up for the work. They're not sure that you'll be able to help them get the results that they're looking for. Another reason could be that this is just not a priority for them. They need to be experiencing some kind of proverbial pain and need the cure. Sometimes you get pushback on price because you're targeting the wrong audience. Okay, so think about this. Someone who wants fast and cheap food goes to McDonald's, right? Someone who wants healthy and organic buys that type of food and makes a meal at home or goes elsewhere to get it. Someone who wants Chinese food goes to a Chinese restaurant. Someone who wants a really unique experience for their dinner party hires a private chef. These are all food related and they all serve people, but they all serve different groups of people with different needs. They have different audiences and price points. So think about how broad an audience for a graphic designer can potentially be. You've got to narrow that down. Who is the best audience for what you do? Who can you serve well and who can afford to pay what you're asking? And I shouldn't even use the word asking because your price is not a question. It's a statement. When you appeal to the right audience, they will come to you and it will be easy. The wrong audience is the one that won't see the value, or you'll feel like you have to convince them. And you shouldn't be convincing anyone to work with you. When a client says you're too expensive, you might feel the need to reduce your price, negotiate, justify your price, or convince the client. And these are exactly what you shouldn't do. Doing any of these things will always put you at the whim of the client and their budget, or what they want to pay, or what they feel they should pay, which is usually an amount based on an uneducated opinion. Responding this way will also deflate your confidence and keep you stuck in an order-taking position. How will you ever get ahead and start making some real money and ensure that you're profitable if you're not in control of what you charge? Your price is your price. Like I said earlier, a lot of time price is simply not the issue, whether they say it is or not. So you're assuming it's the price and then jump to immediately lowering your price. So let's get into some things you should do when a client says you're too expensive or they don't have the budget or they can't afford it. First off, show empathy that you've heard and you've understood their concerns. This can make it feel like it's not you versus them. It takes the pressure off both parties and it can actually build trust with them. You're trying to understand and help them, not just take their money. And their expectations might be so far off and it might not be worth your time to educate them. So I'm not suggesting that you work with a client whose expectations are so far off from your pricing. What I am doing is suggesting some options for ways they can still work with you and still pay your pricing. You also want to ask them how much not solving their problem is costing them, or how much resolving it could help them. For instance, if their website isn't accessible and they just got slapped with a $50,000 fine, that's a lot of money, and they could get sued again by a different plaintiff. How much in legal fees and fines are you potentially helping them avoid? Now that $20,000 website shouldn't seem so high. And what about disjointed visual branding? The branding could look one way on the website and different in their emails. And maybe customers don't trust them because they don't recognize the company, so they're losing sales. What percentage of sales could you help them get by fixing that? And now that $5,000 logo shouldn't seem so high. If the client wants to work with you and you want to work with them, you can ask them what they're looking to spend or what their budget is. Although I'm not a fan of asking for the budget because it's usually some arbitrary number they've come up with. Once you know their budget or expectation of cost, you can decide if it would even be feasible to reduce the scope or the amount of work. Only then reduce the price, but never just reduce the price. It makes it seem as if it were inflated to begin with. And it makes it seem they can just negotiate your pricing or that it's arbitrary. And it also keeps you stuck in that order taker position. It will always be a race to the bottom. Another option is to extend the time frame. So just like rush projects should cost more, you could propose charging less to do the work over a longer time frame. Let's say they want it done in 2 weeks, so you can extend that to a month or longer for a lower price. You could do the work in phases. So you'd not just spread out the work over time, but you'd only be doing certain things at a specific time and saving some things until later. That would allow them to spread out the costs over time too. So if it's a large website project, you could say, okay, well, we'll start with the design and a simple build, and then in 6 months, we'll add in these bells and whistles. And of course, you'd want to be very specific about what you'd be doing and when it will be done. So maybe it's a simple website with a form for collecting email addresses, but later you add on an email funnel or e-commerce functionality. You could offer a payment plan. If you normally ask for 50% upfront and 50% before providing deliverables, which I hope you do, then you could maybe ask for 25% upfront and then invoice again soon after, and then send the final invoice before providing the deliverables. Okay, this one might surprise you, but you could ask them to budget for it and come back later. I once had a prospect call to ask how much it would be approximately for a new website, and when I told them, they said they thought it would have been a fraction of that. So, like I said earlier, just because they don't understand how much it should cost doesn't mean you lower your pricing. They told me they would try to budget for that amount because they liked my work, and I figured I'd never hear from them again. To my surprise, though, a few months later, they called to say that they had the money and they were ready to go. I hadn't even given them an estimate at that time, just a verbal range of cost. So I put it into a proposal, what I could do for them for that amount that they had just saved, and then pricing for additional options to help them in case they wanted to add on those things too. Walking away is an option. You are not obligated to work with anyone. You do not have to take anything and everything that comes your way, and it's usually not profitable to do that either. Some people are just looking to haggle over price because they're bullies and they feel the need to try to exert power over someone else to make themselves feel better. Remember, the goal is not to win every client or every project. Some are just not the right fit. Let them go. If you want to know which questions to ask to help position yourself as an expert from the very beginning, check out my video on YouTube called 3 Things That Will Change How You Get Treated by Potential Clients. Or you can download my free guide, 17 Questions You Must Ask During a Design Consultation at creative-boost.com/questions. The links to both are in the show notes.